All right, today we're cracking open a secret that's worth, well, about $10 trillion. It's a whole different world, a system that lets the super rich play by a completely different set of rules. We're going to pull back the curtain on offshore banking. Let's get into it.
So it all kind of starts right here, with this pretty normal-looking building in the Cayman Islands. It's called the Ugland House. But get this, a former U.S. president once called this one building the biggest tax scam in the world. Why? Well, because it's the official address for almost 20,000 different companies. So the obvious question is, how is that even possible? I mean, how do you cram 20,000 businesses into one building? The answer, as you can probably guess, has nothing to do with physical space. It's all about financial architecture, a system that stretches across the entire planet. And we're not talking about small potatoes here. Experts estimate that over $10 trillion is stashed away in these offshore financial centers. To put that in perspective, that's more than the entire economy of Japan. It is a staggering amount of money, all tucked away in places most of us have probably never even heard of.
Okay, so let's get down to it. What exactly is this $10 trillion secret? What is offshore banking really?
At its heart, the idea is actually super simple. Offshore banking is just putting your money in a country that's not your own. But the key, the whole reason for doing it, is because that other country's financial rules on things like taxes and privacy are way, way more favorable to you than the ones back home. And these places, these offshore centers, they've perfected the recipe. It's like this perfect storm for the wealthy. First, you've got super low or even zero taxes. No income tax, no capital gains. Second, they have these ironclad privacy laws, so your name isn't attached to anything publicly. And third, the reporting systems are, let's just say, relaxed. You don't have to explain every little thing. It's the ideal setup for protecting your money. Now, to really wrap your head around this, you have to understand a total shift in thinking. It sounds crazy, but the goal is to become the owner of nothing. And this comparison just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you have James. He's a high-earning employee, makes $1 million, but that salary gets reported to the government before he even touches it, and boom, a huge chunk is gone to taxes. But then you have Mike. He also brings in $1 million, but it's through a foreign trust. So technically, he doesn't have a salary. He gets distributions. And here's the kicker. He gets to decide when and how he gets that money, which gives him complete control over his tax bill. So this is the big secret right here. The ultra-rich structure their finances so they don't personally own their biggest assets. That mansion, the yacht, the stock portfolio, it's all in the name of a complex web of companies and trusts. And if you don't legally own it, it's a lot harder for anyone to tax it. Now, it's so important to get this next part right. This is not tax evasion. Evasion is illegal. It's hiding money you already owe taxes on. This is tax avoidance. It's the art of using the existing legal system, all the loopholes and rules to minimize what you owe in the first place. It's like a game, and they're just playing it better than anyone else, all completely within the rules. So what does this look like in the real world? Well, let's take a look at an absolute masterclass in this stuff from one of the biggest companies on the planet, Apple. For an entire decade, Apple figured out a way to route over $120 billion in profit through a really clever setup using Irish companies. And by doing this, they managed to pay almost no corporate tax on any of their international sales. How'd they do it? They created something financial wizards call a stateless entity. It's basically a company that's designed to live in this legal gray area, like a ghost in the machine that no single country can really claim the right to tax. This is how it worked, and it's absolutely brilliant. At the time, Irish tax law said a company pays taxes there if it's managed and controlled from Ireland. But Apple managed its Irish companies from the US, so Ireland said, nope, not our problem. Meanwhile, US tax law taxes companies based on where they're incorporated. And since these companies were incorporated in Ireland, the US said, well, not our problem either. They slipped right through the cracks between two different legal systems.
The result of this move is it's mind-blowing. At one point, Apple's effective tax rate on all those foreign profits fell to 0.005%. Let me say that again, 0.005%. That's like paying $50 in tax for every $1 million you make. Insane.
Eventually, the European Union caught on, and they weren't too happy about it. After a legal fight that went on for more than a decade, Apple was finally ordered in 2024 to pay Ireland $14 billion in back taxes, so the party did eventually come to an end. Okay, so that's what a corporate giant can do. But a similar playbook exists for individuals too. So, how does someone go about building their own personal financial fortress? Well, it basically boils down to 3 steps. First, you set up a shell company in a tax haven, like the Cayman Islands. It is no employees, no office, it's just a legal file. Second, that company now owns everything: the house, the boat, the money. Your name is on nothing. And then the final move, you create a trust, often in another country, that legally owns that shell company. You're just the beneficiary, the person who gets to enjoy all the stuff. But that leads to the big question, right? If you don't technically own any of it, how do you actually spend the money without getting taxed? And here's the secret. You don't spend your money. You borrow against it. You go to a bank, use your massive offshore fortune as collateral, and take out loans with incredibly low interest rates. That gives you tax-free cash to live on. It's part of a powerful strategy, sometimes called buy, borrow, die. So, at the end of the day, after looking at all these layers of shell companies, trusts, and perfectly legal loopholes, you're left with a pretty big question. Is this all just financial genius, playing the game at the highest level? Or is it a sign that the global financial system itself, while technically legal, is fundamentally